Also limited judges' power on nationwide injunctions.
And joining us now to discuss is Nicole Hallett, director of University of Chicago Law Program and Immigrant Rights Clinic. She is breaking down what today's ruling actually means. Nicole, thanks for joining us. Yeah, let's just get right to this. What does today's ruling mean, and what kind of impact are we going to see as a result?
Well, so today's case was not actually about the underlying legal issue. The issue in the case is what the meaning of the 14th Amendment is and who is a birthright citizen. The court did not address that question. But what the court did do is it limited the ability of lower district courts to block executive actions on a nationwide basis. And so this decision has, it sounds a little dry, I admit, but it's going to have a great effect not only in this case, but in any case that any plaintiff brings against the administration for an executive order or for any other action that the government is taking. Now there will not be the chance to enjoin those actions on a nationwide basis. And I can explain what that means, but it essentially means a lot more lawsuits and a lot more government actions that are allowed to proceed even though they may be unconstitutional or unlawful.
Okay, so understanding you correctly, I want to circle back and really focus on the birthright citizenship. So what comes next with that? There's no immediate impact, but what is the next step here?
So the Supreme Court gave lower courts 30 days before the executive order will go into effect. And if nothing happens, the order would go into effect in the states that have not sued to stop the executive order. So 22 states, including Illinois, have sued, but there are 28 states that have not. And if nothing changes, then the government would be permitted to deny citizenship documents to babies born in those 28 states, regardless of the fact that the underlying legal issue has not actually been adjudicated yet.
Yeah, because it didn't address something, and I want you to explain that a little more. What it really didn't do was the Supreme Court did not rule on the constitutionality of Trump's executive order in January, which is looking to end birthright citizenship, which you addressed. But what's next, and where does that stand now? Will they be revisiting that?
So every court that issued a nationwide injunction in these cases will be revisiting the issue. Those nationwide injunctions are now invalid. The individual injunctions for the individual plaintiffs are still in place. And in addition, in some of the lawsuits, the plaintiffs have filed a class action motion to try to get a certified class of anyone who might be affected by the order. And we don't know whether courts will grant that. If courts grant the ability for the plaintiffs to proceed as a class action, that will mean that anyone who's in the class, which presumably would be babies born who would be subject to the executive order, would be then part of the class and protected while the litigation was ongoing. But again, this is just a motion that has been filed in some of these cases. We don't know yet what courts will do with those motions and whether they will allow the class actions to proceed.
What kind of message do you think the High Court's decision sent today? Was it a surprise, or was it kind of expected?
I don't think it was a surprise. I think the court had signaled in other cases that it was intending to limit nationwide injunctions. I think that the scope and the fact that they will not allow them in any case is potentially a slight surprise. But I think, you know, what this tells me is that this Supreme Court is much more concerned that courts are overstepping their powers than they are that this administration is perhaps overstepping its authority as the executive branch. There have been many cases that have been filed against the administration, and almost universally they have been enjoined in the lower courts. So this is a huge shift of power away from the judiciary and to the executive branch, just at the point when the executive branch seems committed to get as much power as possible.
Thank you so much for joining us and helping us to break this down. A lot more coming forward, and hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.